degree in nursing from East Carolina University. She also holds a certification in the care of adult medical and surgical patients. She is a wife, mother, and born again child of the Most High King.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Family Health Matters. I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers, and we are here on Awesome Radio, WECU 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. And you can also go to Awesome Radio Facebook and YouTube page and search Family Health Matters and join us. All right, I am excited to be here today, and this is Nutrition Month, but people been asking me how does nutrition work with exercise. So we've got our exercise specialist back with us today. Kiara Robbins is here with us in the studio, and we're going to be talking about preparing your body to exercise.
Oh, yes, it goes hand
Preparing
in
your
hand.
body to exercise, and you know we right down her alley. So she is already excited. She done exercise getting over here through the traffic. So we thank God to safe travel right over here. So Kiara, welcome back to Family Health Matters.
Thank you, thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be back here.
I'm glad to have you. Glad to have you. So we're going to start off and jump right into this conversation about preparing your body to exercise. We always think about, exercise, exercise. We got to exercise. And you really don't think about you need to prepare
Yes,
to get the best and the most out of your exercise. If you're going to take time to exercise, you need to get the whatever you can out of the most of it.
absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about the start. How do we get started with preparing our body?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I've said from the last time I was here, it is a lifestyle. So, a part of our lifestyle is also the nutrition aspect behind it. And when I say prepare your body to exercise, it's really making sure your body has the proper nutrients, so that way you get the optimal performance whenever you're actually performing the exercise, regardless if it's cardio, regardless if it's a small 30-minute training, if it's a higher intense training. You just want to make sure your body has the proper fuel to be able to actually do the exercise. Um, I always want to just remind everyone that personal trainers, exercise professionals, right? We're not dietitianists, we're not nutritionists. That's not our field. So we're not going to break down a a meal plan or a meal prep. You will have to go to a registered dietitian or nutritionist to have that conversation. But to get yourself prepared for a exercise or workout program, absolutely you can talk to your exercise professional about that.
Okay, awesome. So we can ease our way into it, but the nitty gritty with the actually nutrition piece, we need to seek out a
Yes.
diet, a consult. And most insurances cover at
Yes.
least a type of dietitian consult. So as you said, we're not going to dive into that, but as a exercise specialist,
Hmm.
you can share some things as far as how do we prepare, as
Yes.
far as what foods and how. I know one question somebody asked me, I'm going to get this one out and make sure we get it,
Yes, absolutely.
is how far in advance or how close to exercising can you eat?
Oh, that's such a great question. So,
Okay.
that's actually one of the things I was going to cover.
Oh, okay, good.
So, when we talk about getting ready to exercise, typically we are, I always recommend carbs, light carbs or simple carbs. So, those are like our fruits, something that's really quick that you could digest and your body can actually use right then and there. Typically, I recommend eating probably about 30 minutes to an hour prior to actually exercising. So that way your body has enough time to break down your food and everything and that you
Okay.
actually can use it. So when we start exercising, our body starts to burn those initial carbohydrates that we have put in, so those simple sugars. Um, and then it will go into our fat burning stage. That's where we all want to be, is that fat burning stage.
Absolutely. If I'm going to work out, I want to burn that
Yes.
fat. Yes.
So, but it does take time to get into that fat burning stage. So it takes our body, we have to give our body energy so that it's more efficient to burn those extra calories. So think of it kind of like a wheel, right? You have this first wheel going, but it's going to take a little bit longer to get to that second wheel unless we kind of give it a little boost from that first wheel. Some people like to go in and exercise without eating at all. I'm not one of those individuals. It's hard, but some people can do that. It just takes longer to get into that fat burning stage. The time frame, I can't tell you if it's going to be 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 45 minutes. It varies from person to person, but it never hurts to give your body a kickstart, right?
So let me ask you this. So you said that it takes a while for it to start to burn the carbs that you've eaten.
Yep, that
Oh, the
fat burn.
fruit. Oh, okay. So does that mean that I need to exercise longer? Where if I was going to normally exercise for an hour in order to get the benefits of the fat burning stage, I have to exercise an hour and a half? Or
No.
Oh,
So
okay.
you want to eat still probably about 30 minutes to an hour prior to. It just
Okay.
depends on your metabolism, but that source is there in your body. So as soon as you start to exercise, right, your body's going to pull that source first versus trying to go into your reserves. So
Oh,
it's
okay.
already present, and it's going to be easier to use that initial source, such as like your initial sugars, and it will kickstart that fat burning stage faster.
Okay,
Versus if
gotcha.
I don't have any reserves and your body has to break down the body fat, then use the fat that they just broke down to burn more fat. Does that make sense?
Okay, that does make sense. Okay, that does make
So
sense.
just give it a little kickstart
yeah.
versus like it's like warming up your car, right? You don't want
You
to
can't just jump in the car and
Yes,
go. You got to
can
have
do it,
something.
but it's not. It's going to be a little while before the
Okay.
heat is actually kicking in, right? So you want to turn the car on. You want to give a little bit of time to actually get warmed up, so that way when you actually drive away, you have a more efficient pull from your actual car. So
Okay.
same kind of concept, just with the body.
Okay, that makes sense. That's good. So now, what is the building blocks? What are the things that we need to base all of this nutrition and exercise on?
So you simply want to think about is proteins, carbs, fats. Definitely, you want to have all of that in your diet if you can. In the sense of for exercising, you always do your simple sugars. Like I said, kind of like fruit. I always do apples and peanut butter. That's always a go-to. Has a little bit of simple sugars, give you a little bit of flavor, but yet have protein that keeps you full for your exercise.
So the protein is the peanut butter.
Yeah, the protein,
Okay.
the peanut butter. You got a little bit of sugars in there as well. And then while you're exercising, most important part is hydrating. Hydrate. Sometimes we forget about our water bottles and things
Right.
like that, but that's important too. You need to make sure you're hydrating your body because you are exercising. You are losing your through the sweats and everything like that. So you're losing hydration. So you need to make sure you're replenishing that as well.
So we're hydrating during our exercise
Yep,
regimen.
before, during, and after.
Okay, I
Always
gotcha.
before, always
Okay.
before, during, and after. Especially
Okay.
if you're doing a cardio or a more higher intense workout. Always just take that moment and just drink a sip of water. I'm not asking for a gallon right then and there, but just make sure you're just replenishing. If not during the workout, definitely after. Getting those those Propels or those Gatorades, not a high amount, not a big bottle, just
Okay.
a little bit, just to kind of replenishes those salts and everything that you're losing while you're sweating.
Can
And
I
then-
ask you one question
Yeah,
before
go
you go?
for it.
What's the difference between or recommendation ice water or room temperature?
It's preference. It really
Okay, so it really doesn't really matter.
yeah, your body's going to use it the same way.
Okay, that's good to know because you hear people say different things.
I personally, I prefer room temperature water. Some people like ice water. It just really depends on your preference.
Okay.
But then once again, depends on how much you're exercising. If you're outside, you're working like outside in heat, and you're at like a really high intense, sometimes drinking cold water can actually put your body in shock. So you may not want to have ice cold water, but maybe cool water. So it just really depends on the circumstances. I wish I could give you that direct answer.
Right. But no, that's good. That's good because people do say, you should always drink room temperature water instead of ice. I like ice water. And it just, I don't know, it just settles better with me than room temperature.
Everybody has their preference. I personally, it gets my teeth and everything. So, I mean, everybody has their preference, but I always remind everyone, if you're really, like, if your body temperature is hot,
Right,
you're
that makes
really
sense.
exercising really hard, sometimes that cold water can actually put your body into shock. And you just want to be mindful of that. And then not drinking too much water, too, as they're exercising, because we all been there where we
Right.
start drinking water and then you're like, ooh, I'm full.
Yeah, I don't feel like doing anything
Yeah,
else.
then now you don't want to do anything, or now you got all the slushing happening in the stomach. So you just need to just kind of just drink a sip of water while you're exercising, especially in between those breaks. If you're really pushing really hard, just a nice little sip of water, and then take the moment to bring that heart rate back down, take some deep breaths, then go right back into it.
Okay.
And then after you actually exercise, what I recommend is protein about an hour to 2 hours after you exercise, especially if you're doing
Okay.
cardio or especially if you're doing some resistance training, because your metabolism is still pretty high. You're going to have a more efficient breakdown of those proteins, so kind of into those amino acids to help repair the muscles. Now, it does not mean that, if I eat 3-4 hours later, that is not going to be beneficial. It's just that curve is going to take, like, the benefit is going to go down a little bit. That's all.
Okay.
So it's definitely recommended about an hour or two right after you exercise. So
And I know you just said, you were not a nutritionist, but what about the protein bars? Is that a good supplement for when you finish an exercise?
It can be, absolutely. So,
Okay.
once again, it depends on preferences.
Okay.
Now I know I'm not a nutritionist, but I can break down to you how much carbs you can have, how much, sugars you should have, how much protein you can have. It takes a little bit of calculation. But when it comes to a detailed step-by-step meal plan, and that's a
Okay.
little bit more different. So, we as exercise professionals can have that conversation with how much protein you probably need to have, maybe how much sugar, how much carbs you need to have, how much fat you need to have. But like a detailed all the way down meal plan and prepping, yeah, that's not our field.
Okay, all right. I didn't want to step
No,
out
you're
of the
fine. No,
lanes
you're
because I
fine.
know, as a nurse, I know sometimes people say you're in my lane, you're in my lane and stuff.
We
But
share the lane together, but it's the same way that they're able to recommend exercising, right? You need to
Right.
exercise 30 minutes, and you need to do walking. They could do those recommendations, but not necessarily to the detail of what I can do. It's vice
Absolutely.
versa.
Right, right.
So
Yeah.
I can tell you, but not to the detail of what they can tell you.
Right, but this is why we're here today, to connect those two together,
Yes,
to
absolutely.
merge the nutrition and the exercise
Absolutely.
together. So we're still in our right
We
way.
are, we are. We're under the umbrella of lifestyle.
That's right. That going back to what you told me last time, it's a lifestyle change.
It is,
Yes,
it
yes,
is.
yes. Okay, now we talked a little bit about the carbs, and you mentioned proteins, and you mentioned fats. So what about the fats? What?
Well, fats, right? Your body needs body fat. You will need body fat, and those are just the reserves that your body is using. Now, when I say fats, I'm talking about healthy fats, right? So I know, all the good stuff has all those bad fats in there, right? Those LDLs, but those HDLs are what we're looking for. So some of those avocados, things like that have really good healthy fats for you. Now, it does not mean you splurge on it, but your body needs it because it is reserves that your body's using for when you're exercising or when you're doing day-to-day things. Once again, it depends on each person and it varies, but your body will use it, especially when you're exercising. So making sure you have those reserves is
Right.
important. Now, certain people will go on certain diets at times, which is perfectly fine, but just understanding that you're going to cause more fatigue at times with certain exercises because you don't have those reserves. So you can actually feel a little bit more tired while you're exercising. Yes, you get benefits, but you're going to have a lot more side effects while you're exercising.
Okay. So like with the low carb diets or the
Yes.
high protein diets. Okay.
Yes. So yes, it's low carbs, which is good. You're just not eating a lot of high amounts of sugar. But at times, though, if you are like, okay, I'm not going to eat the sugars. I'm not going to eat breakfast right now because I'm, doing low carbs, or I'm going to eat my carbs a bit later. Just know that while you're exercising, you might feel a little fatigued because it's taking longer for your body to kickstart. So your body will use those simple sugars. After those simple sugars, it will use those body fats, and after body fats, it will use protein. So it's going to go through those cycles to try to use all the energy sources it can to get you the most efficient workout. By the end, you might feel like, oh, I feel great, but the beginning of the workout can be a little tough.
Right.
So
Okay. So
just
it's
being
about
mindful.
balancing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Now, some people will completely take like carbs completely out. So once again, you have to be mindful of things like that. If you're taking carbs completely out of your diet, you want to make sure you're talking to your doctor, talking to your nutritionist, talking to your exercise professional, and letting them know, because that's going to change on how your workout is going to go as well.
Oh, okay.
And if you're at higher protein, I mean, that sometimes you might feel a little bit fuller while you're working out. Just giving a heads up. Oh, I had a protein bar before I came to work out. I just had a protein shake that can sit in your stomach a little bit longer, and it actually takes a little bit more energy to burn. Because once again, we have to go through those different cycles before we can actually break it down.
That's really good because I was thinking about the protein drinks or the protein shakes, about the fact of having like a maybe not a whole one, but half one before I go
Yeah.
to work out. But now that you mention it, the protein is supposed to sit in your stomach to make you feel full.
Yes.
And why would you do that while you're getting ready to go to see,
So-
this is great, everybody. This is great. This is
So
great.
it's
Yeah.
going to sit there. Your body will eventually use it.
Right.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, some of these protein shakes and protein bars will have those sugars in there.
Uh-huh.
But looking at how much sugars, what is the ratio between the sugars and the protein, and really think about, okay, well, if I'm going to eat this protein bar, or how long is it going to probably take me to really feel the effects of this protein bar? Yeah, you're going to feel full right then and there, but you might still feel a little sluggish because your body's like, where's the sugar? Hold on.
Right.
Let me
right.
break down the body
That-
fats.
Okay. And we gonna get to this, but I was just thinking about the fact that the other day when I did a workout, I felt really, really good afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And I went home and I was like, oh gosh, I feel so good. But there have been times where I just felt like when I finished exercise, I was like so tired. But then I think now that you mention it, there were days, some of those days where when I didn't eat anything
mm-hmm.
and I was rushing trying to get there, but yet and still thinking, well, if I don't eat and eat afterwards, so that makes
It
very good
does.
sense. That's
And then
good.
I also want to remind everyone the best thing that you can always do is eat food. I know we get a lot of promotion when it comes to supplements. You know, take my drink here, drink this here, drink all that.
Right.
Nothing beats food. Just, I mean, the supplements are good here and there, absolutely. But you know, our bodies are made to intake our food and break it down. So that's our more natural way versus these more quicker supplements or things like that. It's an unnatural way of our body to digest. So it's like, why don't we want to? Why don't we improve or encourage like the added sugars, because it actually breaks down in our body different than natural sugars. So I'm not saying eat apples and peanut butter versus I can tell you to eat like a little quick little snack or something like a fruit snack. A fruit snack will break down different than the apple and the peanut butter will. So the fruit snack will break down, it will store as fat, and that's what we don't want. We don't want those as added sugars versus your body will use that peanut butter and apple much more efficiently and quicker. So food is better than just those supplements.
Okay, and while we're talking about food versus that, what about the apple juice and things like that? I mean,
Once again, you got to look at the back of it.
sugar,
You got to
okay.
read those labels. Those labels are really important because they will tell you right there how much added sugar is in something.
Right.
Sometimes it's shocking when you turn it around and you're looking at it, you're like 65 grams.
Yeah, and you go, oh.
You know,
but you always manage to look at it after you drink it.
Absolutely. Or midway, you're already halfway through. You're like, oh no. And I believe that the recommendation for added sugar for adults is 25 grams. And there's sodas and juices that just one serving is double the recommendation just in that little serving. So if we could go the natural way, go the natural way.
I know that goes back when people say, don't drink your calories.
Yes.
Eat your calories. Don't drink calories.
Same
your
concept.
calories. Yeah.
Because those calories, I mean, you eat the calories your body's going to, like I said, you're going to be more efficient versus if you drink the calories, you don't realize that, oh, that cup of soda was 210 calories. Or, and then we start trying to do math. Well, if I did that, how much exercise do I have to do to burn that?
Yeah.
And it's a lot.
That. Just to be soda that's just like, whoo, it is gone. And
yes.
And I was talking to a lady the other day, and she was talking about how she's mindful of the sugar and the calories. And she had, I can't remember what it was, 2 little pieces of candy. And she said, Wendy, she said, I just thought about it. If I ate 3 of these, how many calories I have consumed? And she said, I put them back on the shelf.
and it can become very mind consuming, right? Where we're calorie counting and we're like, well, how much calories is this? How much calories is that? Moderation. That's always the key. Doesn't mean that you don't get that, a little bit of ice cream. Does not mean that you don't get your little bit of fixed sugars here or there from your dark chocolate or things like that. But just being mindful and really just weighing out those decisions on which one is a better option. And I like to tell everybody all the time, I have done this with plenty of times with a lot of my clients that I work with, where I will sit down, I'll show them what their basal metabolic rate is. And I'm like, this is what your body's burning naturally. And then we sit down, do all the calculations. And I'm like, okay, if you do this class for 1 hour, you're burning maybe 600 calories. Look at what you're eating. That is, what do we prefer? Do we prefer to have to do double, triple the work, or we just take our time and really plan our meals and we have a more better balance there?
Yeah.
So just take our time.
And that is something, because you do 60 minutes of exercise and then you go home and eat a pack of nabs, and you're just like, oh, I just burnt up. And it is significant about burning the calories versus calorie intake.
Yes, it is. It's really, really important. I try to remind everyone, try not to go too crazy when it comes to calorie counting, but just be mindful, definitely. And if you need a more detailed plan, you talk with your nutritionist. If you need a more detailed plan when it comes to exercising, making sure we're burning certain calories, definitely come to our exercise professionals. Between the two of us, we can help you get to your goals. But really, moderation will be the key. If you're able to put all your meals in moderation, that's why meal planning is such a big thing. I laugh because we call it meal planning. I'm like, it's just leftovers. It's just leftovers. That's all it is, right?
Oh, that's good.
It is
Yeah.
leftovers, right? So why, you don't have to do the meal prep on Sunday for the whole week unless that's what your schedule calls for. But literally, if you make dinner on Monday night and you have enough or leftovers for Tuesday, Wednesday, just prep it enough so that way you have moderation between these next couple of days.
Yeah.
So it's just leftovers. That's all.
That's what I'm gonna tell my husband next time. I'm gonna tell him that we're just meal planning.
Because when you meal plan your dinners, right?
Mhm.
That's what meal prepping is. But just
Yeah.
trying to plan exactly, right? Getting that the plate, right? Make sure you have your
Mhm.
proteins, make sure your fruits, make sure you're eating your dairies, make sure you're having all the things that you need on that plate that you can. Or throughout the day, just balance it as much as you can. Don't try to overthink it though.
Okay, that's overthinking part. That is good. Okay, let's what about fasting? I think we talked a little bit about that. About what do you think about
Well, it
fasting and
varies.
exercise?
Once again, depends on the individual.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to fasting, it depends on the type of fasting you're doing. Some people do a very long fast throughout the day. And once again, I always recommend if you are going to fast and you're going to plan exercising around it, try to either exercise as soon as you can when you're about to eat. So if you know you're not going to eat
Okay.
until a little bit later on in the afternoon, the evening time, then maybe plan your routine a little bit later in the afternoon. Because if you do it in the morning, you're like, oh boy, I'm hungry. Your stomach's growling all day. But once again, it depends on the individual. If you know you're going to do a 12-hour fast or a 16-hour fast or 18-hour fast, you have to plan it accordingly. Maybe a midday workout is not going to be ideal for you. Maybe it is for some people because it gives them a boost for the day.
Right, right.
Because they're not intaking anything, but when they go exercise, they're breaking down this energy source, and now they get a little boost of energy, so that might work for them. But you have to just be mindful. Make sure you're hydrating. Make sure you're making sure you're eating nutritional foods if you're fasting. Right? We can't just fast, eat breakfast, and I'm like, all right, I'm not going to eat anything.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're eating, McDonald's
That's
for breakfast.
it.
Yeah. We want to make sure we're eating nutritional food for our bodies. So really plan it. If you're going to do something like that, you have to take the time and make sure you're giving your body the sources that it needs. So I need to make sure I have my sugars. I need to make sure I have my fats, right? Your body's going to use
Yeah,
those
all those
fats.
things.
You need
Yeah.
to have those proteins. You need to make sure you're having your calcium, all of that's included in there.
Okay. Wow. This is great. This is great. This is really good. So, we talked a little bit, but what about pre and post op? Post op. Here I'm talking about hospital. Pre and post workout nutrition.
So
Really quickly.
yeah, so pre workout. So a lot of people like to do these pre workouts once again, which is kind of a quick boost. It just helps break down a little bit quicker your body.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see people drink like Celsius or C4 energy drinks, and there have been studies that shown benefits of that. But once again, natural sources are going to always be the better option. So grabbing onto something like some fruit, I always go with fruit. Oranges are my go-to thing, and you would never go wrong with a little bit of cuties and just eat those. You probably seen me done that plenty of times in classes.
Yes.
I'm like, hold on, I gotta go grab my oranges and eat those, because it just gives your body that little boost. And then as you exercise, you try to hydrate, and right after 30 minutes to maybe 2 hours tops, just try to have that protein. That's the key part there, is to make sure you're giving your body that nutrition and when you're at your highest metabolism. Um, and it really, like I said, everybody's preference is going to be different. Some people like protein shakes, some people don't. Just because you worked out doesn't mean you go get the steak dinner later on, Um, but just understanding that their input and output is really going to be important. So if you need anyone to help you understand how much your body's burning naturally, and then we can discuss a little bit more detail about how you're inputting, and then you can have a conversation like, okay, if you're doing these type of exercises, this is the average about how many calories you're going to burn. It's a lot of it depends on your age, a lot of it depends on your gender, a lot of it sometimes even depends on your race. There's different things that can have an impact on how your body's going to break down these energy sources too. And if you need more detailed when it comes to, well, what should I eat? Well, how should I eat? Then you go to the dietitian nutritionist, and they can help you break down a more of a set meal plan. Well, maybe for breakfast you can have this, this, and this, and this. And then they'll tell you maybe for lunch you can have this, this, and this. Maybe they'll give you into a direction of a diet plan that you will follow. But if you do that with your nutritionist, you need to go back to your exercise professional, tell them, hey, my nutritionist is getting me on this. Can you help me adjust? And that's what we're doing. We're working together to make sure we're helping you get the benefit.
Awesome. That is great. That is great, because and it's important. So All right, what if, really quickly, what if I don't have access to somebody like you? I'm very blessed and very fortunate.
Well,
what do
where
you,
to go? Well, you always can ask your doctor.
okay.
You always ask your doctor about what should I do when it comes to burning calories or exercising. And if they're not able to answer the questions, you could typically go to your nutritionist and they can give you kind of a general guidance. But when it comes down to a more detailed exercise plan, you're going to have to find an exercise professional. And it typically you could probably, Google someone nearby you and just ask them, hey, can you just give me a consult and just talk to me about exercising? And a lot of times we will be happy to sit down and talk to you. We're just happy that you're ready to start. So I've talked about it before. There's different phases of everybody kind of getting into the exercise program and exercise regimen. And the hardest phase is to actually take action. But
Take action.
when
That's
you're in
good.
those, when you're sitting here thinking, you're like, oh, I know I need to talk to somebody, and you call somebody and you're having a conversation, that's great. And that's your first step of taking action.
Taking action. Well, Lord, it was time. We are finished. We have ran out of time. But Kiara, thank you so much
Of
again for
course.
coming and sharing all this information. And this is just an opportunity for hopefully many people to just glean from you.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And again, I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers, and we are here on Awesome Radio, ECU 107. Oh, 107.5 FM and 1570 AM. Join us next Thursday on Family Health
Hello to
Matters.
our awesome radio friends and
Bye,
partners.
everybody.
This is Akila speaking here. You can reach us